I call this workshop of the Bryan Independent School District to order. Let the record show the quorum of board members is present and that this workshop has been duly called and that notice of this workshop has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code Chapter 551. At this time, we have no citizens' comment, so we will move right down into items for discussion and or action. And first up is the 9 through 12 math and science update.
As the ladies are coming up, I'd just like to introduce to you our Administrator of the Year, Miss Debbie Richards. And also wish her well in her retirement at the conclusion of this month.
Yes.
Ladies.
And Lauren.
I'm sticking around, so how about my round of applause?
Wonderful.
Yes. We're here today to bring to you some information about our high school math and science programs. And so, next slide. We brought you elementary school, intermediate school, middle school as well. All of that is very similar at the high school level for both math and science, with a few subtle changes. Click. Is Matthew clicking or am I clicking? Am I clicking? Okay, just checking. All right. So, in high school, same three things for mathematics: planning, delivery, assessment, and mastery. Some of the slides that you see up here deal with our calculator software that we now use at the high school level in our Algebra 1 classrooms this year, and then next year in all high school math classrooms. It allows you to track our data. We use it for mastery check items, and so if you'll notice underneath assessment and mastery, that is the just-in-time data that teachers receive in the classroom as students are engaging in the mathematics. And so it's really exciting that that technology will also be in all of our math classrooms. You notice that under delivery, we have an example of smaller group instruction. We really are trying to make sure that we differentiate our instruction because we know that that gives us the highest impact. And so we do continue to do smaller group instruction in our secondary math classrooms. A lot of the things that we've already talked about when we talked about math the first time was a problem-solving model. We have a K-12 problem-solving model that we use to engage our students in critical thinking and responses to difficult situations that they might be in mathematics. A gradual release, we still very much believe in the I do, we do, you do method of instruction. We also have balanced and blended learning. Yes, we use calculators in our classroom. Yes, we also don't use calculators in our classrooms. We have moments where we do computer-based assignments, and we have moments where we do not use computer-based assignments. We believe that it's important to be both balanced and blended in our approach to learning, and we will continue that progress into the new school year. And then again, I just spoke earlier about small group instruction. That is something that we're trying to incorporate more and more in our math classrooms, especially those classrooms after Algebra 1. Algebra 1 has it down. They are well versed in that, but as we move forward, we're moving into what to do in those classrooms where we have struggling learners in 10th grade and above. The next thing is our response to COVID. Much like before, our scope and sequence did experience some changes. We had a change and move to block scheduling, which did give us time in our classrooms to really make sure that it was our students completing the math. And so that really helped us get all of our kids back on track as much as we could. And it helped us group our standards in a way that we could focus very well on those. So, in addition to that, we also tried to make some curriculum connections. Our content was strategically embedded throughout the school year to build on where they needed to get to. So we know that they might have had a hole from Algebra 1. So when we were doing a geometry lesson, we would start with that Algebra 1 skill, make sure everyone was good to go on it before we progressed into that geometry standard. And we will continue to do that for the foreseeable future. Advanced academics.
Excuse me, can I ask a question about block scheduling? I think I know the answer, but The total time is actually not changed, right?
Correct.
But you are, I guess you don't have the startup time that you.
The number of transitions allowed us to get to the students doing the work during that time. And so the way that we grouped our lessons worked very well. I'm excited about the new schedule where we have some of those block days that will allow us to take deeper dives into the lesson, but also be able to see our kids more throughout the week, because that too is important. And so the mixture of both in the coming school year, I think, is ideal. We're in curriculum writing right now. We've been able to lay that over calendars and what that looks like. And we're all really excited to see how that looks in a classroom, because it's something that we haven't applied for. And so, so far it looks great. I'm excited about it. Okay. So for advanced academics, we have pre-AP classes in high school. We also introduced pre-IB in Algebra 2. So at the Algebra 2 level, which is mostly, for IB, that's mostly 10th graders, they begin to differentiate between IB and AP. And they kind of get their feet a little wet in the IB program, which is a really good transition for those students. We use College Board. We have received the College Board designation because we do use the College Board curriculum, which is really great. And then for advanced placement, we have our AP classes. Traditionally, we offer AB and BC Calculus and AP Statistics. Both, they're offered at Bryan High and Rudder, and we're actually near record enrollment, which is pretty amazing. And that speaks volumes to the work that we've done at the middle school and high school levels to get students to those advanced level courses. Because if a student does not take Algebra 1 in the 8th grade, the likelihood of them taking an AP or IB course is small. And so we really have made a great push in the middle school grades to get those enrollment numbers up so that we can have increased enrollment at the high school level. And then we have dual credit. This is offered for our Blinn, our Bryan Collegiate students through Blinn. And after they successfully complete Algebra 2 is when they will begin their credits towards hopefully their associate's degree by the time they're done at Collegiate, which is amazing. So again, thank you for supporting mathematics education. We've been able to have common planning in a lot of our high school math subject areas. Collaboratives, all of those things where we can meet and plan together has been amazing. Classroom-ready resources. I know that my instructional coaches have made a wealth of resources for our classroom teachers to use and will continue to do so. And technology integration. We are blessed that we have calculators that capture data, and we can use that data quickly to make more decisions for our students. It allows us to differentiate all of those kinds of things, as well as things like iPads and Chromebooks and all of those that help us do, some more engaging things that aren't always pen and paper, especially as we transition into testing, where it is both online, not online, calculator, no calculator, all of these different scenarios that in the past didn't exist. We have already been able to implement those kinds of experiences in the classroom, which is amazing. We're well ahead of a lot of other school districts in that respect. And so I thank you for all that you do to support that. Thank you so much. And now we have Miss Debbie. Oh yeah, one more thing. One more. This is a special class, okay? We have something called strategic learning for high school math. And so what we do with this class, this is an innovative course. It is an elective. But what we do is we strategically place students who maybe were not quite ready for high school math, but there is no other high school math course other than Algebra 1. You start at Algebra 1, period. That's how it is. And so this is a support class that we put in place to help those students. It, number one, provides immediate intervention for mathematics content. It is directly in line with what we do in the Algebra 1 classrooms. But it also helps this group of kids understand why teachers do what they do and why that is important for them. So what does it look like to set goals? Why do teachers make you journal? Why do teachers make you do work in groups? All of those things that are really those 21st century skills and college and career readiness skills, all of those things are addressed right here. And most of all, it's to help students develop, if they don't already have, a growth mindset about mathematics education. So this is a very important class for a lot of our incoming freshmen who are also co-enrolled in Algebra 1. Okay? And these are some freshmen, now sophomores, who are celebrating. They have won some prizes for their work in Imagine Math, and they were so excited, and they wanted to, especially the one in the middle, wanted to make sure that you guys saw that he was actually excited about math. All right, Ms. Debbie Richards.
All right, we'll wrap up our tour of academics here with a little bit of science. And 9 through 12 science, probably of all the things that I'm responsible for, it took the least hit from COVID. Because chemistry sort of stands alone, biology sort of stands alone, physics, there's not a lot of content area bleed over in those courses. So we really had the opportunity to just focus on the support, the skills set, the processing standards. And so we were able to pay attention to those. And that was the way that we changed our scope and sequence, was to re-emphasize those and spiral those back into the curriculum, as opposed to having to spiral specific content standards. So that ended up being our best approach for that, and we focused on those. In our science offering, we have a very similar selection to what you just saw with math. We do have pre-AP science, and I'm really tickled that we are doing chemistry and biology using the College Board materials and resources and staying on that platform, and the teachers are really enjoying that. Having that level of rigor in our classrooms is going to make a difference after we stay with it for a little while. Our AP program continues to thrive. We have recently added environmental science at Rudder, and we weren't sure how that was going to go, but the enrollment is up even higher this year. Students are liking the course, the teacher loves the course, and that's really what it takes to build the program, is to find those teachers who love the course and will stay. In fact, this particular teacher said to me that, I said, "Are you coming back next year? You'll be here, right? He said, "Of course, I've got this program." And so it made a difference to him in his career. And he's learning a lot, and he's very open, and so that has been a nice addition to our AP program. And then, of course, we have our IB program at Bryan High School, and then our collegiate students will take dual credit. Most of them choose biology, introductory level biology, as their science course when they do their dual credit. And so our program is a little different in that we have people who have feet in two departments. We have CTE courses that now students can gain a fourth science credit. They can actually get a science credit for a CTE course. And so I listed some of those there. Forensic science is a predominantly offered for a fourth-year course. We have successful programs at both high schools, both of the comprehensive high schools. And then we have medical micro, and in addition to anatomy and physiology, and even advanced animal science. And all of those courses are staying strong, and the kids are enjoying them. We are monitoring rigor. CTE meets, we met together to make sure that they are staying rigorous and that they're what we would expect a science course to be. And so I'm real pleased with our partnership in that program. And all of our science courses from K through 12, we emphasize the same program foundational pieces, including the 5E model of instruction, trying to make sure that our kids are getting hands-on experience, that they're getting to touch science. We want to promote curiosity, and also for them to value data and be good consumers of data. By the time we get to the high school, we want them to be a little skeptical when they see data, so that they don't get panhandled by somebody who's trying to be a salesman and only give you a view of data that is not legitimate. And so we do try to encourage that. We have had to do a little bit of modification to our lab program this year because a lot of students touching the same thing at the first semester. We were pretty nervous about contamination and such. And as we did with middle school, we developed the sanitize, touch, sanitize method, so that if you went to touch something, you had to have sanitized hands before and after. And we felt like we have done a decent job of keeping our kiddos safe while still providing some hands-on experiences, even in our high school programs. And so the one thing that we have been working on is claims, evidence, and reasoning, and I've
And what
mentioned
kind
that
of
3 times
claim
now.
did you make that was based on this evidence?
Can I
If the
stop her?
concentration of CO2 is
I'm going to stop her because I want you to know what she's talking about. So we use this best practice that's called claims, evidence, reasoning. As a student to answer, if a teacher asks a question, the student is to answer with a claim that's based on data, and that's their evidence, and then they give a why. And so we have practiced that with kids now we're going into our third year this year, and it is not a natural thing, but people who can do that, if you ask them a question in a business, why should I buy this car? If they can make a claim, base it on data, and give you a reason, then they're much more successful. So it's a life skill as well, but it doesn't roll off the student's tongue naturally, so we have to practice, and that's what this video is. So this is a girl she's practicing her claim and her evidence, and you can see it is not a natural way for our students to speak yet. So you'll see her. Oh, now she's not gonna play. Thank you.
And what kind of claim did you make that was based on this evidence?
If the concentration of CO2 is higher in a solution, then there will be a higher rate of photosynthesis. This is because more carbon dioxide is present for photosynthesis to occur.
Okay, and it didn't roll off her tongue easily. We had we just have to practice that. It's built into our curriculum to allow time for that as we get to high school. Prior to that, we are promoting it and encouraging it and having teachers ask the question and wait and expect that. But at this level, we even get to where we are practicing making sure that they feel comfortable with answering a question with their claim, evidence, and then the reasoning that goes along with it. It's going to play again, Matt. Sorry, there. Okay, so through all of our science program, but particularly our 9 through 12, we want to make sure that we're supporting our teachers well. And so by giving them access to hands-on material, sometimes we ferry it back and forth if somebody needs to share. Also making sure that our TEKS alignment stays solid in all of our different courses. We also try to help them design real engaging activities that our students naturally love and enjoy science and want to be a part of it. So it needs to be something we do, not just a sit and get. And so we do continually encourage teachers to provide kids that opportunity in the science class. And then sometimes we spend a little extra effort to connect teachers with resources. Like the example that's up there is we have connected Bryan High with the BAM program at A&M, where it's the Brotherhood of Aggie Mentors, and those people will come into the classroom and attach to a certain kid that they come back weekly and mentor as well as help with in the class, and it's all volunteer work, but that's just an example of how we try to keep them connected to the resources that help them. Coming on a horizon really soon, we have new standards coming. That's always fun for a content area. So the coming year, we will get, we already have our high school courses. Those TEKS have been approved, and we're waiting on the K-8 approval. The following year, we'll adopt resources with implementation in the 23-24 school year. And so we're already preparing for that, because what we're going to see at the state level is a bigger focus on engineering in all of our science courses, starting in the lowest kindergarten class all the way up through high school. That's a strand that's going to run through it, is that engineering and design modeling that will be included. So we'll have a shift coming, but we have plenty of time to get ready for it. I'm confident we'll make it. All right, and that is all science.
Deborah, I have a question.
Yes.
The claims evidence,
Reasoning,
yes, is that part of TEKS?
not current, but it will be.
So it'll be shared throughout the curriculum of other classes too? Because that's really good and easy
They
to
don't always
understand.
call it CER, but and we've been working on CER at the national level for about 6 years. And so we have students who are now getting better and better at that process, but it will be defined in our state standards in 23.
Neat.
All right. Any other
Thank you.
question? Thank you all.
Thank you.
Item 2 is to discuss purchase requests over $50,000 for Imagine Math.
Good afternoon. I have several purchases on the agenda today to discuss that are annual reoccurring purchases. The first up is Imagine Math, and as Ms. Wooldridge mentioned earlier, this is utilized in a number of our grade levels, and in fact, it was previously provided by the state of Texas under the Student Success Initiative, and when that funding went away, we shifted it over to federal funds because we saw the importance and the impact, most importantly, the impact to our students. You've seen Dr. Morris in years prior bring you analysis of what successful lesson completion in Imagine Math translates to in STAR performance, and there is in fact a strong correlation between those two measures. So we would respectfully request that you consider the purchase in the future for Imagine Math at $99,750. And if the board is in agreement, we can add it to the night meeting later this month. Are there any questions I can answer for you? Thank you.
Right, and next up is Branching Minds.
This purchase is also a reoccurring purchase. Branching Minds is utilized for our response to intervention framework documentation, and essentially it streamlines the work and personalization of intervention for teachers and campuses. It allows for our accelerated instruction plans. As we all know, we have a number of students who possibly have some unfinished learning from this year due to interrupted education. And so it's highly important that when we have a struggling student, the team at the campus comes around the child and looks at what the needs of the child are. Are they different? What interventions are necessary to move that student forward so they can be successful on grade level. Response to intervention, the software, Branching Minds, also provides support with summer school and tracking that progress so that the receiving teacher the next year has all of the notes from the prior year. It's very important as our students are mobile and transition from one school to the next, whether through grade promotion or just moving within the district, that the receiving campus and district receive the history of the student, what interventions have proven to be successful in moving the student forward, and where are they at in that process. So once again, if the board has questions, I'd be glad to answer them. Total cost for the coming school year for all grade levels is $85,653, also funded by federal.
I don't see proposed motion on these, but
I think the intention is to move them to consent agenda for the night meeting.
Yes, sir.
So it's just discussion at this point. Yeah. All right, if there's no questions on, next up is accelerated reading.
Accelerated Reader is something I think most of us have some familiarity with over the course of the years. We've brought it back recently to really focus, as Dr. Woodbeck has mentioned, on fluency and encouraging that love of reading. I think now more than ever, it's especially necessary. Our elementary students, I think, probably had the biggest hurdle to overcome with interrupted education and inconsistent instruction due to absences of teachers and their own absences due to COVID. So as we go forward in the coming year, we need kids to read, read, read. And we need that to be at home. We need that to be on the weekends. We need it to be at school. We need it to be in the summertime. The Accelerated Reader program provides a fun incentive for reading. We recognize its primary focus is fluency and encouraging that reading. It is not a substitute for reading instruction in any way, shape, or form, nor does it provide an intervention. But it does improve fluency. It does improve the child's outlook on reading, and that's what we want to see. Lauren Wooldridge mentioned earlier about a growth mindset. We also need a growth mindset with reading and a love of reading to be fostered. So this particular purchase would be focused on grades K through 6. It's most apt for those grade levels, but with other incentives, obviously, in other grade levels.
There's no discussion or questions, and I think as you mentioned, I think we've all done AR at times.
Yes. You know the colors of the dots and which ones how many points, yep.
Back then, we had the card catalog that you had to search through and
Yes.
find, and the file folders you had to go pull. Number 5, discuss the purchase request over $50,000 for specialized assessment and consulting.
Thank you. Yes, we brought this one previously to the board for the past several years, and this is a up to and not to an exceed type contract. In prior years, our need for evaluations and the nature of the stringent nature of those timelines rather means that sometimes we need to outsource evaluations to other entities because of how they come in and the time in which they come in. We certainly know the changing landscape of requesting evaluations over the past several years in Texas. And so we see more and more evaluations being requested from families, the assessments necessary to determine if a student qualifies for special education services. It becomes more complex, or it has rather in the past couple of years, with dyslexia services and the overlapping nature of sometimes needing a special education assessment in addition to a dyslexia assessment and what that may look like. That certainly was discussed at length in the legislature during this season, and we anticipate some sweeping changes to the dyslexia handbook in the coming summer that may also increase the need for additional assessments, and perhaps this entity would be a help to us.
Well, I can't help but wonder if we could easily support another person on staff. That's one question. And
Yes, sir.
The other question is, I guess, how confident y'all are that the quality is at the same level as what our folks are able to provide.
Those are great questions, sir. We actually do a multi-year analysis to determine, is it in our best interest to just hire another position? With the fluid nature of COVID putting some evaluations at a slower pace than others, it's a little uncertain right now if it really meets that tipping point of adding another diagnostician or LSSP, but that certainly is something we are looking at, as well as what that staffing ratio should be. In terms of their credentials, they are certainly up to par and hold the certifications that ours do and are licensed and fall under that licensure for how they go forward. Our team carefully looks over those evaluations and sits in every ARD meeting and looks at the results to ensure that the people we have working with us and partnering with us with this entity are of the same quality that we expect for our students. Yes, sir.
I think just my comment to add to that is if something changes between now and the meeting, if you get more information where it makes more sense to hire somebody, is that
Certainly.
this is one that is pulled off the consent, and we do talk about it
Okay.
in greater detail. If it's still the recommendation, and again, it's a not to exceed, so obviously it's
Well-
not saying it's going to be that amount.
Yes,
It
sir.
could be far less than that amount. It's just going to be something over $50,000. And so, but if it's still the recommendation there, then
And oftentimes those positions are somewhat challenging to fill.
Right.
Due to the demand nature of those positions.
sure,
Thank you.
I understand. Thank you. Okay, next up, business services, voluntary student and athletic UIL insurance. And I believe this is an action item.
Yes, sir. Thank you. This is a renewal of our student athletic UIL coverage insurance, and we did go out for proposal on this this year. We received three different responses. One of them was ruled out because they excluded PE and intramural from that. The others, the incumbent is the brokerage store. Did reduce their fee from the prior year. They also offered a 2-year rate guarantee, and there was some confusion on that if it was 1 year and then a second year. Actually, it will be for next year, and then they'll guarantee that rate for 2 more years, which in our recent history of insurances, anytime I can get a rate guarantee, I'm eager to accept that if that's a possibility. The other things, one of the district's team doctors that they use was not in network with the student insurance plans on that. And so our recommendation on that is to go with the brokerage store with the 1 year and then a 2-year rate guarantee on that year.
And am I reading this correctly, Kevin? It's actually a decrease?
Well, they're decreasing theirs. Now, the other company, the student insurance plans, was still lower than them, but they did not give a rate guarantee for the 2 years. And in fact, they did talk about a 5% and 10% being possible increases if we stayed within a certain loss ratio. If we go over that loss ratio, then that would not apply, and so there could be even higher increases than that.
I move approval of the contract to the brokerage store in the amount of $72,824 for student and athletic UIL voluntary insurance as presented.
Second.
I have a motion by Dr. Harlan, a second by Ms. Waller. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries, and we'll move it down to CDL testing.
Good afternoon. What I'm asking you to consider today is a third-party testing memorandum for us here at Bryan ISD to be able to test drivers from other districts within our area. So drivers from districts like Snook and from Hearn, Caldwell, Madisonville, places like that. We get requests on a regular basis from those districts because we have a third-party tester here. One of our supervisors here is certified now. It's something that we did a couple of years ago. This was offered as an opportunity, and it was a problem was getting drivers tested quickly, and so the state provided this opportunity for districts to be able to get their own people certified to be these third-party testers, and now we can quickly get our employees tested. Well, this is a problem for other districts. 2 years ago, we used to have to drive to Houston and to Waco and to Livingston to get our drivers tested. And this is what these other districts are having to do now. If this would have been available to us to go to, say, College Station and get one of our drivers tested, we would have done that because we were paying 6 hours of wages for 2 people to drive to Livingston and back or down to South Houston and back to do this. And a benefit of this is that, one, it gets us more licensed CDL school drivers in our area because we hire from these places. We hire from Snook, and we hire from Caldwell, and we hire from Hearn. So just because they're going to work for Hearn right now doesn't mean that they're not going to end up being drivers in Bryan someday, and especially when we get a brand new facility and they're coming down there and taking their test. They'll see that. So I strongly encourage the board to consider this, and I think that it will be a benefit for us. Anyways.
And others.
And others, exactly.
I assume there'd be a reasonable charge for this.
Yes, so we have, we've looked at in fact, the charge that is on this and is on the last page of the MOU is actually the exact charge of the district that we borrowed this MOU from. It's the same price that they're charging out at TEECS to do this. It's the same price that they're charging at Region 6 at the ESC to do this. So we're consistent with everybody else that's doing this. Is there any questions?
I move approval of the memorandum of understanding to conduct third-party CDL testing as presented.
Second.
A motion by Dr. Harlan, a second by Dr. Davis. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion carries. Next up, we get to talk about sewer and the tie-in for the CTE complex, septic replacement and sewer tie-in.
Yeah, I get the fun projects, don't I? So the CTEC facility, when we purchased it, everything was outside city limits, but once that renovation was completed, the city did annex us into city limits, and it is currently on a septic system, which does require ongoing maintenance and service contracts to keep it compliant. What this will do is just tie us into the city sewer system, which is right there at the property line where the creek goes across Mumford Road. And we put this out for bid, and we did receive 3 bids for the project. And through that, B&B Plumbing, who was actually the general contractor for the renovation, was deemed the best value contractor for tying the building into the city sewer system as well. And this project is part of the 2020 bond and does include removal of the existing septic system. And the price does include $40,000 in owner's contingency, and that price is $142,840.
So what's the purpose of the contingency?
Just in case anything pops up during the project that we weren't aware of, once we go underground and all that stuff and tie it in, just in case. If nothing is used, we get that full amount back.
Okay, so they have to basically get approval for doing.
Oh, yes. Anything that goes outside of the project to use owner's contingency requires approval from the engineer on the project, engineer of record, as well as myself before they can use any contingency.
Well, I move approval of the contract. I guess that's supposed to be contract with B&B Plumbing in the amount of $142,804 for the CTE complex sewer tie-in project as presented.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Stasny, a second by Dr. Harland. All in favor?
Aye.
And the next item is the replacement chiller at Branch Elementary.
Yes, so Branch Elementary's chiller will need to be replaced this summer or fall, depending on when we can get the chiller in. The earlier we can order it, the quicker our weeks start for delivery. Right now for Branch, it's estimated to be around 10 weeks, but the chiller, between when we did the bond planning and now, it was deemed to have reached its useful life and will need to be replaced to maintain reliable operations for Branch for the next school year and beyond that. And of course, going from a chiller that is 20 years old to now, there are pretty good energy efficiency upgrades during that time period. And when the chiller does get replaced, it will fall under the BTU Smart Business Program for a rebate, which after replacement, I will apply for that rebate and get some money back from Bryan Texas Utilities on it. And we received multiple quotes for this project, and AirTech Brazos Valley was selected as the best value contractor for this project. And the project amount is $232,093 and does include $10,000 in owner's contingency, and it is part of the 2020 bond funds.
I just have one question on that, just because Branch is where my kids went to school. I think the school's about 30-something, just a little over 30 years old. Did the first chiller you probably don't know the history, but it didn't last very long, or do you know the history here?
I could not tell you if this is still the first chiller, if this is the second one.
You said something about 20.
Yeah, 20 years is our typical lifespan. Whether this one went longer than that, I would have to get with maintenance department and find out from them.
Well, I mean, that was the reason I asked, because it sounded like it's functioning, but it's a useful life thing. And so I was just wondering for sure how old it really was. Because since you said 20, I thought, well, that means the first one only lasted about 10.
From what maintenance has told me, it's about 20 years old, and the number of hours on it has reached its lifespan.
Okay.
Deemed by the manufacturer before you need to start looking at replacing it.
Okay.
I move approval of the replacement of the chiller at Branch Elementary to AirTech Brazos Valley in the amount of $232,093 as presented.
Second.
We have a motion by Dr. Davis, a second by Mrs. Waller. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries, and that will bring us to our second chiller at Fannin.
Yeah, so this is pretty much the same thing as Branch with its release. I mean, it's reached its lifespan or its manufactured recommended lifespan, and just needs to be replaced. And this one as well, I'll submit for the for the BTU Smart Business rebate on it when that time comes after it does get replaced. And AirTech Brazos Valley was the best value contractor for this project as well. And this one has an amount of $164,212 and includes $10,000 in owner's contingency also. And this is part of the 2020 bond as well.
Just curious what those rebates are, roughly.
The rebate has a maximum of $20,000 a year from BTU, but what I typically do is I submit as whatever these projects deem, and if, with the hope of they don't run out of their rebate money and they come back and give me more. But it's based on your kilowatt demand that you reduce up to about $20,000.
I move approval of the replacement of the chiller at Fannin Elementary to AirTech Brazos Valley in the amount of $164,212 as presented.
Second.
We have a motion by Dr. Harlan, a second by Ms. Waller. All in favor?
Thank you.
Motion carries.
I have a question, Paul, before you leave. Knowing how much summer school and how much our buildings are going to be in use this summer, is that part of what the federal government is going to pay us back, reimburse us?
I think that may be a Kevin question.
It's okay, you know,
But-
I mean, I've just been reading a lot about summer school and, you know, we're on the cutting edge. I mean, we've been planning on this for a long time, but I was also wondering if the government is going to help.
I know typically for summer school, I will run the hours that each campus uses and go with our utility rates, and I submit that to Kristen Besaw for, because she asks for it every year. But
And I know
that's been an
that
annual
BTU
deal I've
is-
done since
I know
I've been
BTU
here.
is really good about working with us and doing everything they can for us. And so I was just, maybe you could find out, and you don't have to do it in a meeting.
Right, and we can look at the additional that we're doing this year, anything that would be above and beyond our normal, which certainly probably qualify for ESSER, and we can determine and quantify the amount that it was. That is a possibility for sure.
Yeah, and so we're,
Sorry.
yeah, we gotta get back on track. So, thank you.
Thanks.
All right, next up is consider approval of Bryan Collegiate High School District Charter Agreement for the 21-22 school year.
Good afternoon. So I'm here to give you a brief Bryan Collegiate update as well as ask for your approval for our charter agreement for next year. Even though we were in a pandemic this year, we did have some positive outcomes at Bryan Collegiate that kind of make us rethink what we were doing and how we were doing business and moving forward some of the things that we're going to keep. Some of those things are listed there for you, some structured tutorials in the middle of the day throughout the week for students who are on campus, specifically our 9th and 10th graders. Our social and emotional families meeting Monday through Friday instead of just on Fridays. Before the pandemic, those groups were only meeting exclusively on Friday afternoons. Now we found a way to interweave those groups throughout the week. Redesigning our No Zero intervention implementation. A key thing here was the additional tutoring funds that we were allocated this year. So thank you to the administration and to the board for allowing that to happen. Those extra tutors and extra hands on deck allowed us to really redesign and help more students on our campus on a daily basis. Becoming more strategic about clubs and when they meet, so allowing kids to participate in more things throughout the week rather than just a couple of things, and scheduling those. And then Blinn College scheduling for the future semesters. Blinn has been continued to be an incredible partner for us. They've helped us overcome some scheduling constraints and scheduling hurdles moving throughout this past year that we finished, as well as moving into next school year. So they've been still an incredible partner. There's our graduate information. Much of this you heard at the commencement exercises a couple of weeks ago. Our largest class ever at 97 students. Most of those kiddos were first generation college students. 4,600, almost 4,700 college credit hours earned, average of 48 hours each. A big thing there is almost 12,600 community service hours served in our own backyard. So throughout organizations here in the Brazos Valley, 18 of our kiddos earned associate's degrees, and 42 of those kiddos that graduated were certified core complete by the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board. So acceptances, they were accepted to lots of places this year, lots of new places this year out of state. So communications, I asked communications to put this graphic together for me for something else, so I thought I would throw it in as a good visual for the board presentation. You know, despite the pandemic and everything that happened this past year, we were still able to make the U.S. News and World Report rankings. So we were ranked again for 2021 as one of the top high schools in the nation. And one of the other things I wanted to point out and talk about for just a moment is just a reminder of who we're supposed to serve as an early college high school. We're supposed to be recruiting kids who are identified as at risk for dropping out of high school, low-income students, first-generation college kiddos, populations traditionally underserved and underrepresented in higher ed, and then students who have the potential to succeed in all advanced level coursework. The Texas Education Agency publishes what's called an early college high school blueprint that kind of gives us some guidance on how we're supposed to be doing business and how we're supposed to be recruiting our students. And some of those things that they target are called outcome-based measures. So basically, those are just metrics that the state uses to compare us as an early college high school with other early college high schools around the state. So if you take a look here, they published a report in April about some of those metrics since the blueprint was published several years ago. And we, as an early college high school here in Bryan, we either want to meet those metrics or exceed them. So when they group all of the early college high schools together, you can see that they are serving approximately 49% of their kiddos are at risk. We're at about 55.5%. ECHS, 75% and 75.7, so we're right on target there. English language learners, 12% for all early college high schools. We're at 15%. Some of the attainment indicators there, you can see about 51% of those kiddos earn 30 hours or more, whereas all of our students earn 30 hours or more. Graduates to have Texas Core 42 that I referred to a while ago, 25% as early college high school around the state, where we're at 51%. And then direct to college enrollment, this is a significant one. 43% of early college high schools kiddos around the state enroll in a 2 or 4 year university or institution directly after high school. We're at 78%. Now those data points down at the bottom are for the class of 2020, the kiddos who graduated last year. So we'll wait to see what the update is when the National Clearinghouse gives us data for the class of 2021 that just graduated. So we're asking for approval of the charter agreement that gives us the ability to adopt a set of grading guidelines. It's a little slightly different from the rest of the district to help us better prepare students for that post-secondary education as early as their freshman year. So that's all that I have, unless you have any questions.
I don't know. This is kind of iffy. Now, y'all are doing a great job. You know, I'm
Well, we're thankful for your support.
super, duper excited and proud of y'all.
Shining star.
I move approval of the Bryan Collegiate High School District's charter agreement for the 2021-2022 school year as presented.
Second. Have a motion by Dr. Davis and a second by Mr. Stasny. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries.
Thank you very much.
And we will move on to art education.
Good afternoon. Joining me at the table is our Director of Fine Arts, Mr. Pat Corbett. We're coming to you today with a new resource in your consideration of approval. And because it's new, we wanted to give you time to contemplate this. And if you approve, then we will put it on the consent agenda for the next board meeting. But the resource is much more comprehensive than what we currently have in place. Our art teachers in the district actually had the opportunity to vet the resource and actually use it for a trial period, so they love it. We actually have a few art teachers in the audience with us today with moral support of the product. But it is a 3-year subscription in the amount of $60,394. And this covers all 3 years. So we won't be back in the boardroom to renew it each year until we exhaust all 3 years. This also includes a conference and professional learning opportunities for our students for implementation. So Mr. Corbett, do you want to add anything to that?
I'd just like to add that we have 32 visual art teachers in the district, and this is, as Ms. Caravine said, this is the first time we've had this level of supplemental curriculum resources available to them. It is aligned with the TEKS, and so they can pull any lesson and get valuable resources and teaching ideas, lesson ideas. And also included in this are ways to implement social emotional learning into their lesson, and it also has ideas for integrating cross-curricular math and ELA into their art lessons. And there is a tremendous amount of professional development available online for our teachers. So all of our art teachers were very excited about the potential of getting this opportunity for them.
Anything art teachers can have tangibly, they're almost like the left out people. And so I know that they're very creative and very imaginative, but anytime you can have something in front of you that you know is going to match the needs of the student, plus tied into other curriculum, I think it's great, and I know they'll appreciate it. I'm so glad it's for all 3 years and not a yearly thing.
Yes, ma'am.
You make a good point, and that it is especially useful for brand-new teachers, new to the profession. It's a tremendous resource, so we're very excited about that, too.
Okay.
All right, if you don't have any questions, we will bring it back on the consent agenda. If you have any questions between now and then, please reach out to Mr. Corbett or me. We'd be happy to assist.
It has a motion on it.
Oh, there is a motion?
Yes.
There is. I think we had some confusion at our level on that. We were trying to stay consistent with giving you time to hear and then come back with consent, but I think there was some discussion about the timeliness was important for perhaps some perks that the teachers could receive. I'll let y'all explain that, but I do remember there was some back and forth. It did end up with the motion, so we're really comfortable with whichever way the board wishes to go.
Yeah, to clarify Dr. Whitbeck's statement, there is a conference that's available to all the teachers if we do make the purchase within the next few weeks. So if the board would like to proceed with approval, that would be great. I will work on getting the purchase order.
I'm good.
Yeah, I don't have it.
I move approval of the purchase of the 3-year subscription to the Art of Education as presented. That's it.
Second.
A motion by Mr. Stasny, second by Dr. Davis. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, and that moves us into technology and cybersecurity.
Yes, sir. I will say that the board has completed their cybersecurity 100%. Well done. I'm coming to you today. It's in accordance with the government code that we just let you know that we have finished our year of cybersecurity training. We will be submitting this document online after your acknowledgement, basically, that we have finished for the 2021 school year. I will have a few more days for a few stragglers, but right now we're sitting at 95%. But I expect a few more to come in the next couple of days. So for the year we've had, I think we've done a pretty good job. So anyway, any questions about the cybersecurity training?
Ms. Johnson literally, one by one, reminds people. She has a way.
When it gets to the end, yes.
I was going to make some comment about cyber stalking, but
I did a little of that.
That's good.
I move approval of the DIR submission verifying completion of the cybersecurity training for the 2020-2021 school year.
Thank you.
Second.
a motion by Dr. Harlan, a second by Mrs. Waller. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. And that will bring us to discuss and consider approval of improved hazardous zones for Jane Lung Intermediate and Navarro Elementary School.
Good afternoon again. All right. So transportation regularly reviews our transportation zones. Our community's growing, especially with new subdivisions coming in, and when these new subdivisions come in near our schools, it sometimes provides opportunities for us to modify our transportation walk zones. Jane Long, sizable reduction in their current hazardous zone due to a new development that just happened kind of to the, I guess it'd be to the east of it. This will reduce about 30 students off of buses that are riding into Jane Long. I'm going to skip ahead actually to the next slide. See if I can, I'm not sure exactly how to click onto that link though that's on here.
Matthew,
Can you click on that link?
could you assist us?
Bottom left. Hopefully it'll pop up the way I planned. All right, so you can actually, oh great, it actually showed up. So you can see the new development there on kind of sort of the right side of the screen, off of Leonard Road. That's all brand new, and all those kiddos can now walk to school safely, which provides opportunity for great exercise. And we normally would bus a full bus out of there, and to the point where they are packed, and now we can take it and balance several buses that are coming into there. So I'll go, you can close that, Matthew, please. And you can see on this, that's the actual current transportation, or the current zone. We're just going to adjust it so that it takes that into, takes that new housing development in, and we would no longer transport any of the kids that live in that area. They'll all walk to Jane Long from there. The other area is at Navarro, and that is right along the Highway 6 feeder road. This was brought to our attention by the school administration there. Working with them, we saw an opportunity there along the feeder road, and I'm going to take you to the next one where we can click on the link and you can actually see that again. I think it should be also at the bottom. Can you see it down there, or maybe it was on the last one?
I think it's on this.
So you can see Navarro Elementary, and then look right there along the feeder road. You can see they're like little duplex apartments right there along the feeder road, just to the right of Navarro Elementary. And all those kids currently are in what we're calling a walk zone. So they have to walk along the feeder road to get back to the residential road that takes them to the elementary school. And with the adjustment to the hazardous zone, we'll pick them up along. And we've actually made this adjustment already. We're already picking them up because we just felt that was the safest thing to do. But we'll make it so that it's actually part of our hazardous zone and make that adjustment with the board's permission. Anyways, that's pretty much the gist of it.
Approval of the recommended updates to the Bryan ISD list of hazardous transportation zones.
Second.
If you have ever want to see what these look like, I've actually posted all of these hazardous zones on our transportation page on the district's website. So all those hazardous transportation zones are posted and available for the public to see.
Thank you. I have a motion by Mr. Stasny, a second by Dr. Davis. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Thank you.
Motion carries. And next we'll consider Power School support contract and renewal.
Yes, good afternoon. I'm Jennifer Lemons, and I've my first time to see a few new faces. And so I'm the Director of Data Services. My department supports our student information system, our enterprise software. And so just to briefly kind of explain what those are, our student information system, it includes everything about the student: schedules, discipline, attendance, enrollment, withdrawal, their transcripts. Every single piece of data about the student is contained there. And so our enterprise software is our finance office, our payroll office, our warehouse, fixed assets. And so Power School is the vendor that we purchased that from. And so I am bringing today the request to approve the purchase or the renewal of that support contract, actually for a 2-year block. We have a software review cycle that it's about time to start, just to do another review to make sure that we're getting the best value for our money and that the software is meeting our needs. We do that about every 5 years, and it's been about 4.5 years since we did it last, and so it's time. The support contract, like I said, it includes our student information, our financial information. It also includes an off-site disaster recovery backup. Those backups occur every night, and in the event, if there was a tornado that took out the technology building, which would be awful, that service would allow us to run our payroll and take care of our employees and make sure that we can still function with the most critical pieces of data that our district needs to run.
Kevin, she's at the end of the agenda. Do we have any money left? I'll move approval of the renewal of the Power School support contract for a period of 2 years ending August 31st, 2023.
Second.
And a motion by Mr. Stasny, a second by Mrs. Waller. All in favor?
Aye. Thank you.
Motion carries. And at this time, the board will now convene in closed session to discuss the following items as allowed by Texas Government Code Chapter 551.074 and 551.072. No voting will take place in the closed meeting. Any action the board wishes to take as a result of discussion in closed session will take place after the board reconvenes in the open meeting. It is now 1:05. The board reconvened in open session at 1:28. No action was taken in closed session.
I move approval of the superintendent's recommendation for the Director of Student Services as presented.
Second.
Have a motion by Dr. Harlan, a second by Mrs. Waller. All in favor?
Aye. I move approval of the superintendent's recommendation for principal of Henderson Elementary as presented.
Second.
A motion by Dr. Harlan, a second by Dr. Davis. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and both motions have passed, and if you want to go ahead and make the announcements.
Yes, I just would like to say that administration is proud to welcome Ms. Shannon McGehee, current principal of Davila Middle School, to be the new Director of Student Support Services. We know that she'll do an outstanding job as she has in the principalship. And also to announce that Mrs. Daniela Garza will be the principal for Henderson Elementary. She's currently the assistant principal there for 5 years and has been a product of Bryan ISD. We're proud to promote her to the position of principal.
Excellent.
Thank you for your approval.
And if there's no further comments or business, we are adjourned.